Good morning.
I got lost.
I got lost. It's like a maze back there. It's incredible. Morning, everyone. Good to see you and a joy and a blessing to be with you. I'm Richard Mirage. I'm the lead minister here. And just want to let you know we have two intentions for our services. Number one is that you have an experience of God, a deep experience of God. We hope today's service will help you let go of whatever's worrying you or concerning you so you can open your heart and go deep and have a really profound spiritual experience. Everyone just take a deep breath and prepare yourself for an amazing experience of God. The second thing we hope that you will experience is a great sense of community. Whether you're here for the first time or you've been here for years, I hope you can feel the sense of connection and the power of joining together. There is something about being together in the community, joining our energy, joining our love, our voices, and our faith that creates an incredible connection of feeling supported and a sense of belonging. So again, deep breath. And so welcome to each and every one of you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Richard. So let's take our mission statement together. Unity of Phoenix is a loving spiritual community that welcomes all people and honors all paths to God. We are dedicated to transforming lives by inspiring and awakening individuals to discover God's Spirit within them. So now is that time in our service for a time of prayer and meditation. So if you have your cell phone with you, I want to encourage you to either place that on silence or vibrate, and Holly will lead us in our meditational song. So as we come together now for a time of prayer and a time of meditation and contemplation, I want to encourage you to get comfortable in your seat. So take a deep, relaxing breath. And over the next few minutes, just sort of let go of all the busyness of the holiday season and all of the to-do list. And just bring your attention to this present moment. Each passing moment of this journey called life brings with it an incredible opportunity to be more appreciative of not just life itself, but those whom we share rich relationships with. And perhaps there is no greater time than the Christmas season to remind us of the precious gifts of family and friends, of health and of prosperity and abundance. The gift of joyfulness. And the gift of being. So often in life we are so accustomed to doing that we rarely think of just being. Being quiet, being still, being reflective. Being open and receptive to going a little deeper. Going a little deeper into our psyche, our consciousness, our soul. So many gifts. The gift of healing, the gift of overcoming adversity, the gift of aspiration and hope, the gift of faith and wisdom, the gift of strength, not just physical strength, but emotional strength and spiritual strength as well. So the reality is, each of us has much to be grateful for. And as we enter into a time of sacred silence, I encourage you to reflect on your personal gratitudes. We give thanks this morning in the name and through the nature of that living Spirit of Christ that moves and that has its being in each one of us. We give thanks for the insights that come when we quiet the mind and calm the spirit. For these blessings and many, many, many more. We give thanks, and so it is. And amen.
Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory What child is this who lay to rest on Mary's lap is sleeping, whom angels greet with anthems sweet, while shepherds watch are keeping? So bring him incense, gold, and myrrh. Come, peasant king, to own him. The King of kings salvation brings. Let loving hearts enthrone him. This is Christ the King, whom shepherds guide and angels sing. Haste, haste to bring him, Lord, the babe, the Son of Man. Raise, raise the song on high. The Virgin sings her lullaby. Joy, joy, for Christ is born, the babe, the Son of Man. Ooh,
Thanks, Holly. Great job. Great job. Morning again, everyone. And welcome to everybody who watches us online. Special shout out to Tamara, Keely, and Dee Dee. Thanks for tuning in, guys. It was great meeting you the other day. Hope you'll come back again. But thanks for being a part of our online ministry. So this doctor goes to this small town, and he's able to cure everybody of everything. I mean, the town becomes so impressed, he quickly develops a reputation of being the miracle doctor. Everybody loved this guy. Everybody loved him except Fred, the town skeptic and cynic, who didn't think this guy was so miraculous, and he was out to prove he couldn't cure everything. So Fred made an appointment with the doctor and said to the doctor, "Doctor, I've lost my sense of taste. Can't taste nothing. What are you going to do to cure me?" So the doctor, scratches his head, and he is deep in thought, and then he mumbles a few words to him, and he said, "Fred, what you need is jar number 43. So the doctor leaves for a couple of minutes, and 5 minutes later he comes back and he hands Fred a jar with the number 43 on it, and he says, "Taste it." So Fred puts his finger in it, and he tastes it, and immediately he just starts spitting out. He said, that is the most disgusting, horribly tasting thing I ever had in my whole life. And the doctor smiles politely. He said, look, it looks like we restored your sense of taste, Fred. Well, Fred stomps out of there, and he is furious. So he's thinking. A month later, he comes back with another problem. He says, Doc, I can't remember. Can't remember nothing. You asked me what happened yesterday? I can't remember it. Can't remember a thing. So what are you going to do to cure me? And Fred thinks he's got him this time. So the doctor's thinking and scratching his head. He mumbles a few words to himself. And then he looks at Fred and says, Fred, what you need is jar number 43. See, it's one of those slow-releasing jokes. When you're driving home, you'll be hysterical. I'm not kidding. Seriously. So yesterday, I'm listening to my iPod, and a song comes on that just catches my attention. The first line of the song is, I believe in miracles. And so it really kind of captured me and inspired me, thinking about my Christmas talk, I believe in miracles. The second line was, where are you from? You sex a thing. But Jimmy wanted me to talk about the sex a thing, but I'm going to stick with the miracle part. So my question for you this morning, how many people believe in miracles? How many people, if you didn't even believe in miracles, would like to believe in miracles? I think we all would. I truly believe that Christmas is a story. It's a miracle story. It is a story of miracles. And I truly believe that in life there are many, many miracles. There are many wonderful and amazing things, but I think we'd all agree that there is no miracle greater than the miracle of birth. There is something magical about birth. Birth is the creating and bringing forth of new life. The creating and bringing forth of something that gives joy and hope and possibilities. And Christmas is the celebration of the miraculous birth of the Christ. The birth of everlasting hope and peace and love and joy. The birth that brought good news to the entire world. And I truly believe that there's a powerful message in the Christmas miracle, in the miracle of the birth of the Christ child. And so I want to share with you the story, the miracle story, and it begins with the foretelling of the birth of the Christ child, which is even preceded by the foretelling of the birth of John the Baptist. And I want to read you both the stories, and I want you to hear the similarities, and we're going to go through it to see what kind of powerful and important message it has for each of us this Christmas. So it's in the book of Luke, chapter 1, verse 11. This is the foretelling of the birth of John the Baptist. So now, John the Baptist's parents are Zechariah, he's a priest, and Elizabeth, and that's his wife, and she's not able to have children. And it's at this prayer event with incense around, an angel comes to Zechariah and says this. Then there appeared to him an angel of the Lord, standing at the right side of the altar of incense. When Zechariah saw him, he was terrified, and fear overwhelmed him. But the angel said to him, do not be afraid, Zechariah, for your prayer has been heard. Your wife Elizabeth will bear you a son, and you will name him John. You will have joy and gladness, and many will rejoice at his birth, for he will be great in the sight of the Lord. Just a few verses later, we have the foretelling of the birth of Jesus. So again, an angel visits Mary and says these words. Greetings, favored one, the Lord is with you. But she was much perplexed by his words and pondered what sort of greeting this was. And the angel said to her, do not be afraid, Mary, for you have found favor with God. And now you will conceive in your womb and bear a son, and you will name him Jesus. He will be great and will be called the Son of the Most High. And the Lord God will give to him the throne of his ancestor David. So if you hear the foretelling of these two miracle birth stories, you can see that both Elizabeth and Mary were called to give birth to a child, to give birth. Each were meant to have the child be born in and through them. And this birth was supposed to bring joy and gladness and blessings to the world. And I truly believe these miracle birth stories are really a metaphysical message and a spiritual lesson for each and every one of us. That every one of us is being called by God to give birth to something great that will bring forth joy and gladness and be not only a blessing to us, but a blessing to the world. And I tell you, every one of us is here to give birth to something greater, even something greater than we think we can give birth to and bring forth. And I will prove it to you. How many people in here know that there's something in you, some great achievement, some becoming something better that you have not fully allowed to come forth? How many people know that? Every one of us knows. There is an angel and an intuition and awareness within all of us that knows there is more in us that we have not fully allowed to be born, to be expressed, for us to fully become. And the Christmas miracle story, the birth of the Christ child through Mary and birth of John the Baptist through Elizabeth, is a story that's calling all of us to give birth to something greater than we think we can do. And Mary is a great example. She gives us a spiritual instruction to have a Christmas miracle, the spiritual instruction on how to give birth to something greater from within us than we have allowed ourselves to do so far. And here are the 4 things that Mary did. Number 1 is she was willing to listen. That when the angel was speaking to her, she was willing to listen, even though this thing seemed far-fetched. Even this thing seemed so big, she was absolutely willing to listen to that voice. Anybody ever here know that your inner voice told you to do something, but you didn't want to do it, so you just didn't listen? Anybody? Okay, me and a couple other people and a whole bunch of laughing folks in the back. Every single one of us sometimes knows we're called to do something that's hard or scary, and we don't want to listen. Sometimes we think, we want to make this particular investment, but the voice inside says, don't do it. And we sometimes still use our heads and do it. Sometimes we move in certain directions, make certain decisions, and deeper in our soul, we aren't willing to listen to what our soul says because we have some mental concept of what we really want. I'll tell you, sometimes people were not that good at listening as we could be. A friend of mine just had some emergency heart surgery, and you know what he told me after? First of all, he was lucky to be alive. He said, Richard, I knew this a year ago, but I didn't want to go to the doctor because I just didn't want to hear it. Every one of us, sometimes we say, God, give me this thing, but don't make it too hard, please. So I bet you every single one of us could do a better job in being willing to listen to that still small voice. Being willing. Sometimes, the voice says something we may not logically think is right, but that will eventually lead us to something greater and better. The question is, are you willing to listen? Mary was willing to listen to this great and amazing thing. She never imagined that for herself. But it was her calling to do. And every one of us has some call, something in us that's calling us to give birth to, even if it scares us. How many people saw the movie Saving Mr. Banks? Anybody saw it? It just came out. Saw that movie Friday. What a phenomenally fabulous movie. It's starring Tom Hanks and Emma Thompson. Incredible. So here's the general gist of it, and I'll try not ruin the end for those of you who haven't seen it. So here's the gist. So it's Walt Disney. So when his daughter's young, reads her Mary Poppins, the girls. He decides, I want to make a movie of this. Promises the girls, I'm going to make a movie of this. And he keeps reaching out to the author, P.L. Travers. For 20 years, she says no. But something in him knows he's meant to make this. He thinks it's because he promised his daughter. He thinks it's because it'll make a lot of money. He thinks it's because it'll bring joy to the world. And yes, those were true. He was persistent. After 20 years of still listening to the voice that this movie was meant to be made, she finally agrees to come over to just have a visit to chat. She was extremely stubborn, didn't want to give away her Mary Poppins, and created all these rules that Walt Disney would never have given in to anybody except this stubborn woman. And it took 3 more years before the movie was finally made. And at the end of the movie, just before, Walt Disney, shares his story. It turns out that the Mary Poppins character was from the girl's childhood because she'd had a horrible childhood, and so did he. And the making of the movie brought such tears to her. It was a healing for both him and for her from some childhood pain. And the point I'm trying to make is sometimes what you think you're doing and why you're doing it, there's the sole reason that is even more profound if you're willing to keep listening to the voice. Could you imagine being persistent for 20 years and being told no? And then when you meet the person, they're the most stubborn, rude person you'd ever want to meet, and yet you keep following your spirit, and it led both of them to an incredible healing. I absolutely believe that while it sounded crazy to Mary, while it sounded something impossible and uncomfortable, because she was willing to listen, the great birth took place, and we're still speaking about her today. And so my question for you is, are you willing to listen to that still small voice? Listen to your soul calling you to do whatever is in the next step of your spiritual evolution. The thing that is calling you to bring forth your gifts that will bless the world. Are you willing to listen? The second thing Mary did is she was willing to believe it was possible. Let me just read you from Luke chapter 1, verse 34. It says, Mary said to the angel, "How could this be, since I'm a virgin?" The angel said to her, "The Holy Spirit will come upon you, and the power of the Most High will overshadow you. Therefore, the child to be born will be holy. He will be called Son of God. And now your relative Elizabeth, in her old age, has also conceived a son. This is the 6th month for her who was said to be barren. For nothing shall be impossible with God." Anybody ever want something, you really wanted something, but a part of you didn't believe it would actually ever happen? Anybody ever have that? Let me just give you the circumstances for Mary and Elizabeth. Both of them were told they would give birth, but Elizabeth was barren. Elizabeth was incapable of having children. I want you to go even deeper into her being barren, because in that time of that culture, being barren was a disgrace, because it meant that she wasn't a real woman. She wasn't fulfilling what culture expected a woman to do, which was to produce children. So not only was she barren, getting older and never having a child, she was shamed, considered less than in her culture. So she was told of this great thing, but her conditions were not very conducive or hopeful. Sometimes we hear and think we want something, but the question is, we look at the conditions of our lives and think, man, it's never going to happen. How could this possibly be? I'm praying for prosperity, and yet I'm struggling financially, can't pay my bills. Sometimes we get caught up in the appearances. Let's look at Mary. Mary was told she would give birth. And Mary, she said, "But I'm a virgin." And in my language, I'd say, she's saying, "I'm unqualified." These circumstances and conditions for that particular thing aren't present. And many of us can say, "I don't have enough education. I don't have enough money. I'm not smart enough. I don't have this or that. My family's so dysfunctional." These appearances, I don't know if it's possible. And what's so amazing about Mary was not only was she willing to listen, but she was willing to believe this thing is possible. That this thing is absolutely possible. That's why I love that line. What the mind can conceive and believe, it will achieve. Mary was willing to believe that God had an amazing plan for her. Mary was willing to believe that with God it was possible. Mary was willing to believe that she could give birth to something great. Mary was willing to believe that she had something to offer the world that would bring forth a great blessing. My question is, are you willing to believe that God has a plan for you? Are you willing to believe there's something great in you that if you give birth to it, it will lift and raise you, bless your life, and it will bless all the people around you? Are you willing to believe that with God, that is possible for you? Are you willing to believe? Mary was willing to listen. She was willing to believe it was possible. And the next one, she was willing to trust God. Now, some of you can think trust and believing are the same. They're close, but trust is much deeper. It is much more profound. It was much more unshakable. How many people would say you absolutely, totally trust God in your life? Okay. Hold that thought. I want to show you something really interesting. In both the birth stories and including when the good news is shared to the shepherd, it's interesting that in each case it says when the angel appeared, they were terrified. And the next word from the angel, the first words from the angel was, do not be afraid. To Zechariah, to Mary, and the shepherds, the same thing. The angel appeared and they were afraid. Think about it. Zechariah was a priest and he's at a prayer session. An angel appears and he's like, whoa. Is it just me? That's like God appearing now and me, a minister in the church. I'm thinking, oh my God, it's God. I think about these things. But here's the point it's trying to make. This scripture is making a very important point, is that when an angel appeared, when something greater than we could have imagined appears, even to a priest, a virgin, and shepherds, that the human reaction tends to be fear, to be overwhelmed. That is so good, I can't believe it. That is so big, it's scary. Are you getting what I'm saying? That we as human beings, even when there's something great suddenly appears in our lives, our human tendency is to be a little bit afraid. We're scared. Can I handle that? Is it real? Is that more than I'm worthy of? Can I really even accept something so great? Sometimes in us, there is like an inner struggle of our fear and our faith. There's a part of us that wants it and a part of us that's afraid of it. I want a loving relationship, but suppose I get hurt. I want to be successful, but suppose I fail. I want to leave my job and start my own business, but suppose it doesn't work and I look foolish. I want to make a bigger step, and take on more responsibility, but suppose I can't handle that responsibility. I want to reach out and take a risk to make my life better, but suppose my life gets worse. One of the things I realize is that to conceive, to give birth, is the joining together of the male and the female. And I would say that also blends in is to joining the head and the heart, to joining the intellect and the intuition, to joining the human and the divine, to joining the visible and the invisible. And what I think this is saying is that sometimes fear is a part of the process. It's a part of the process. Every one of us gets scared. When there's something big and overwhelming that we may not feel worthy of or we don't think we can fully handle it, there's a part of us that gets scared. It's the part of the journey of the process of birth, of giving forth and expanding into something greater. The question is, are you willing to trust God like Mary? Mary said, Lord, let it be done according to your word. She was willing to trust that God would shape her and lead her, and whatever would change us, she'd be okay. That she could trust the process. Every one of us wants our lives to be so smooth and easy. And you know what? Life's a journey. I've never really seen live birth, but I hear it ain't a pretty thing. And stretching and all kinds of things. And yet it's a miracle. And I'll tell you, all of it's a miracle. Where you are in your life right now is a miracle. The lessons you're called to learn right now is a miracle. Even the pain you're going through is a miracle, because that pain is trying to birth something greater in your life. The question is, are you willing to trust it? See, you can put the brakes on, or you can open yourself and surrender and allow it to unfold. So my question is, are you willing to trust God and trust the process and realize that fear is just a part of it? Move through it. Don't let it stop you. Mary is willing to listen. She was willing to believe it was possible. She was willing to trust God and trust the process. And finally, she was willing to create a space for God. Mary didn't know how to do all this. She was just willing to create a space and trust that God would allow it to change her and grow her, that it would grow and unfold and germinate in her, and it would come forth. She was willing to create a space for God. How many people would like a miracle, some Christmas miracle in your life right now? And my question is, are you willing to create a space for the miracle? You don't need to know how to do it. It's, can you just open a space to allow God to do something amazing in you, to grow a new you, to expand you and open you in a new way? Are you willing to create a space and even let yourself be stretched and expanded? Maybe right now you've closed your heart off to someone and your spirit is saying stretch and open a space for God to come more into your heart. Maybe, that you don't have faith that your dream could come through or your life could be changed. Can you stretch your faith just a little bit more? Are you willing to take a risk and reach out and connect with someone that you might be feeling distance with and have a heart-to-heart talk with them? Are you willing to risk and reach out and ask somebody for help? Are you willing, to see yourself in a new light and try something new? Are you willing to even look back on your painful Christmas memories and, maybe you may not like Christmas at all and look back and heal that so you can enjoy this Christmas? Every one of us has something to create a space for, to allow God to heal, to allow God to uplift, to allow God to birth something greater. I love the words in the song, Joy to the World. Let every heart prepare him room, and heaven and nature sing. And the question is, are you preparing a room, preparing a space for God to do something amazing and wonderful in your life? Every one of us, like Mary, is called to give birth to something greater that might even scare us. Something greater that we know that is ours to do, that will bless us and bless the world. The question is, are you willing to listen? Are you willing to believe it's possible? Are you willing to trust God in the process? And are you willing to create a space for that great thing? Something great in you is waiting to be born. The question is, will you allow it to come forth and allow yourself to experience the miracle of birth and your Christmas miracle? God bless you all.
Oh, holy night, the stars are brightly shining. It is the night of our dear Savior's birth. Long lay the world in sin and error pining, till He appeared and the soul felt its worth. A thrill of hope, a weary world rejoices, for yonder breaks a new and glorious morn. Fall on your knees. Oh, hear the angel voices. Oh, night divine. Oh, night when Christ was born. Oh, night divine. Oh, night divine. Truly He taught us to love one another. His law is love, and His gospel is peace. Chains shall He break, for the slave is our brother, and in His name all oppression shall cease. Sweet hymns of joy in grateful chorus praise we, let all within us praise His holy name. Fall on your knees. Oh, hear the angel voices. Oh, night divine.
Fabulous job. Woo! 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 All right. So everybody, let's rise now as we join our kids as we sing together our song of peace.
Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, a peace that was meant to be. With God as creator, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me.
And now, please follow the lead of our kids as they lead us in the prayer of protection. Guys?
Of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is.
God bless you. What a great and wonderful week, and I'll see you on Christmas Eve, 3, 5, and 7.